Hey guys, Bo here again. And it's gotten considerably darker since the last entry, and there seems to be a storm kind of blowing right now. I don't know if you can hear the raindrops, but you know, YOLO. And I'm using like an impromptu light source for my phone, so hopefully it doesn't die of battery. So anyway, in this entry I just want to briefly expand on the difference between symbolism and energy. And this is also an elaboration on the concept I introduced to you 2 vlog entries ago, which is the axes of perception. So you have one axis that is symbolic and the other axis that is energetic, and it's to do with identity, like flexible identity. And the gist of it really is that all actions, all events, all objects, you know, all like identities, they can be either good or bad, depending on the energy behind them, depending on how we feel, depending on the motivations and the inspirations, sorry, not inspirations, the intentions behind that thing, right? Behind the object, the action, the event. You can take it as either good or bad, depending on your perspective, essentially, and the way you feel. And already you can start to see that this is a very important thing. And I mentioned in my Axes of Perception video about how we can change our attitude and our perspective, such that we can take a situation, for example, that is really bad and make it into a situation that is resourceful. So for example, we can make like a failure or a setback in something we're trying to do, whether it be business or like, you know, trying to learn something, trying to succeed in something. We can take that failure and then we can reframe it into a positive experience, an experience that enables us to learn. It gives us some raw data to you know, take away and to apply and learn and better ourselves, right? And this applies to everything, right? Everything, even the things that are commonly held as good, and the things that are commonly held as bad, they can be good or bad, depending on how we see things, right? So I'll give you an example. Right. The act of telling someone off, the act of criticizing someone, can be either good or bad, depending on the perspective. It also depends on the delivery, and that is somewhat to do with your energy, like the energy of the conversation, for example. But a criticism can be either good or bad, and it is up to us to interpret it as good or bad. Right, and that interpretation is the energetic kind of process. Whereas if you were to take a criticism symbolically and not be aware of the energy behind it, then it will have a fixed identity, like I explained in the Axes of Perception video. So criticism can be either good or bad, and this applies to everything, right? So we could go really extreme. We could go to like something like killing, like murder. Murder is almost unanimously kind of held as bad, right? Like killing someone is wrong. Killing someone is like the ultimate sin in loads of kind of religious circles and that kind of thing. But let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a very kind of risky question, right? What if there's a person facing a death sentence and they have murdered 20 people, they've appeared in court, they've confessed to the crime, they've even expressed that they had a sense of enjoyment out of it, and that they will continue to do it if they ever escaped, and like they show kind of no remorse, no kind of relenting of that kind of drive to kill someone. Just as like an example. Would it be so wrong to kill that person now? You know, you could think about the situation in around the world. You know, like there's kind of political tensions around the world. There's like kind of There's kind of like pickaxes being waved up in the air, you know, there's war, there's like the prospect of war and stuff like that, right? There's conflict. And is war good or bad? You know, and most of us would be inclined to say, yeah, war is bad, you know. War is always bad. There's no use for war. And I would actually be inclined to believe that, personally. But again, it depends on the context. You know, it depends on the context. Because, I don't know, to give like a hypothetical good version of that, it could be that the wars have been fought in the past, some of them have been done to win us independence, or to win certain other countries independence from like the countries that were controlling them, right? Like, you know, like revolutions and things like that. So everything has either a good or a bad perception, energetic perception, and that is down to your attitude, right? And that is the difference between symbolism and energy. Symbolism is just the object, like the structure, the bare bones thing. It can be anything, something that we put a label to. But whether that thing is good or bad in a moral sense is based on our energetic perception, how we perceive it, you know, what frame we want to put it in, what identity we want to give it, you know, what light we want to put it under, kind of thing. So I want you guys to basically take this idea and to realize that whatever you do, there is a good and a bad interpretation of it. Essentially, another way of saying this is basically, whatever you do, there will always be fanboys and there will always be haters. There will always be supporters and there will always be naysayers. Because people have different interpretations, right? People are in a different energetic space. And it will do you well to be aware of this, so that you can develop a sense of discernment, like I mentioned in the previous entry, and that concept overall. Discernment, and from that discernment you'll be able to basically, you will be able to pick a good or a bad identity, depending on what is most resourceful for you in the moment, on a case-by-case basis. And also you'll become, like I said in the Axis of Perception video, you'll become more tolerant of differing kind of interpretations of things. Like, you won't be so kind of angry, I guess, you know, when people give a differing kind of take on something. Like if you think something is bad and someone else thinks it's good, you know, you'll have flexibility in thinking, and you'll be able to basically see the good and the bad in a particular action or decision. And that is really resourceful. That is what makes good leadership. That is what makes kind of good decision making. You know, that is how you can make the best decisions, when you can basically hold multiple different interpretations of good and bad, you know, from one thing, from one action or symbol. Right. Okay, I'm going to end this one here. Hopefully that was helpful, and hopefully you've got like a further understanding of what I mean by symbolism and energy. So, you know, in summary, look at things from the good and the bad. Even the things that are like seem absolutely good and absolutely bad. Be aware of those things in particular, like, because people kind of propagate those things subconsciously. Challenge those things, and like I said in the previous entry about thoughts, actions, thoughts, and being, you don't confuse those three things. Thinking really taboo thoughts, or like, you know, considering that something is good when people say it's bad, that kind of thing. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person. So you're detaching thought from being, and you're detaching action from thought, right? And you're giving all of those their deserving place. So yeah, and be open-minded and just see things in multiple perspectives, and you'll become much more flexible and a lot less stressed about things, a lot less uptight. So cool, I'm going to end this one here, and I hope that was helpful. See you in the next one. Peace!